In 2021, a single ship blocked the Suez Canal and brought global trade to a standstill. Now, Israel is quietly reviving a decades-old mega-project that could permanently bypass Egypt's most valuable asset. If completed, it would alter shipping routes, shift military strategy, and reshape power in the Middle East. The Suez Canal is one of the most important shipping routes on Earth, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. It allows cargo ships to avoid the long and expensive journey around Africa's Cape of Good Hope. Roughly 12% of all global trade passes through this narrow waterway, including oil, gas, grain, electronics, and manufactured goods. For Egypt, it's a financial lifeline. In 2023, the canal generated approximately $9.4 billion in revenue. That's equivalent to over 2% of Egypt's entire GDP, and it's one of the country's most stable sources of foreign currency. But this financial goldmine has a critical vulnerability. At peak capacity, only around 50 ships per day can transit the Suez. It is a single-point choke point, narrow, shallow in places, and highly vulnerable to disruptions. The most infamous example occurred in March 2021, when the Ever Given, a 400-meter-long container ship, ran aground and blocked the canal for 6 days. The result: more than 400 ships were delayed, and global trade losses exceeded $10 billion daily, more than some countries' entire annual GDP. That event revealed a glaring weakness in the world's logistics infrastructure and gave new life to Israel's most ambitious infrastructure gamble, a canal that's been decades in the making. For decades, the idea sat dormant, a forgotten blueprint buried beneath layers of history, politics, and desert sand. But now, it's resurfacing. The concept of building a canal across Israeli territory first emerged in the 1800s, when British engineers speculated about carving a new maritime corridor through the Negev desert. At the time, it was an abstract alternative, a bold plan meant to rival the newly imagined Suez. In 1955, British naval officer William Allen proposed a more ambitious route connecting the Mediterranean, Dead Sea, and Red Sea, arguing it could be more efficient and secure than Egypt's canal. His plan was shelved, but it wouldn't be the last time this idea made headlines. In 1963, as Cold War tensions escalated and Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal, U.S. military analysts drafted a drastic solution. 520 nuclear detonations, fired in sequence, would blast a canal through southern Israel's rocky terrain, a plan that came dangerously close to approval before being shelved. It was called Project Plowshare, and it represented how desperately the West wanted an alternative to Egyptian control. The nuclear canal never happened, but the ambition behind it never truly disappeared. In 1994, Israel quietly gave the plan a name: the Ben Gurion Canal. The modern version would run 293 kilometers, starting in the port city of Eilat and ending near Ashkelon on the Mediterranean coast. That makes it 100 kilometers longer than the Suez, but also deeper, wider, and designed for two-way traffic, something the Suez has long struggled to accommodate. Projected cost: $55 billion. Projected annual revenue: $6 billion or more. But the payoff isn't just financial. If completed, the Ben Gurion Canal would give Israel a new kind of leverage, not just in trade, but in defense, diplomacy, and energy logistics. For decades, it remained a fringe idea, too expensive, too risky, too politically explosive. But after the 2021 Suez blockage, the world saw what happens when global trade depends on a single fragile corridor. Now, Israel is reconsidering what once seemed unthinkable. The plans are no longer hypothetical. Israeli engineers are conducting surveys, international firms are being consulted, and what once seemed impossible is gaining serious momentum. Building a canal through southern Israel isn't just ambitious, it's brutal. The proposed route would stretch nearly 300 kilometers, cutting straight through the rocky spine of the Negev desert. This isn't soft terrain. It's dry, uneven, and anything but forgiving. Unlike the Suez, which follows natural topography through mostly flat terrain, the Ben Gurion Canal would have to overcome drastic elevation shifts, hard bedrock, and environmental extremes. It would require excavating enough material to bury Manhattan under 30 feet of rock, a scale few modern infrastructure projects have ever attempted. The canal itself is designed to be massive. 2 lanes, 200 meters wide, 50 meters deep. That's big enough to handle the largest container ships on Earth, vessels that can't even fit through parts of the Suez. The engineering challenge is staggering, maintaining consistent water levels across nearly 300 kilometers of varying elevation while pumping millions of gallons daily from the Red Sea, regulating flow, and reinforcing the canal's edges to prevent erosion and collapse. But this isn't just a trench in the ground. Israel wants to embed surveillance systems, AI-driven traffic control, and automated scanning checkpoints throughout the corridor. It would become one of the most secure and technologically advanced shipping lanes in the world. And along the route, new cities, ports, highways, logistics hubs, entire microeconomies would spring up around the canal, turning it into more than just a trade route. It would be a spine of national infrastructure. But all of this engineering mastery hinges on one critical obstacle. Because the shortest path, the one that makes this entire canal viable, runs right through the Gaza Strip, and no amount of engineering can solve that. From an engineering standpoint, the shortest route for the Ben Gurion Canal is clear. From every other perspective, it's a minefield. The most efficient path, the one that keeps construction costs manageable and timelines realistic, passes straight through Gaza. Not alongside it, not near it, through it. And that changes everything. Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas on Earth. 2 million people crammed into a space smaller than Philadelphia, entrenched in one of the world's longest-running conflicts. Building a megaproject through this territory isn't just complicated, it's explosive. For Israel, gaining full control of this stretch of land wouldn't be an engineering challenge. It would be a military one. Analysts warn that securing the canal route through Gaza would require permanent strategic dominance on the ground, in the air, and possibly through population displacement. Some argue this isn't a side effect of the canal. It's the prerequisite. There are alternative routes. The canal could curve north, avoiding Gaza entirely, but that detour adds potentially 30 to 40% to the total budget, delays the timeline by years, and weakens the canal's financial viability. It also reduces the military and strategic benefits of a straight, coast-to-coast channel. In other words, if Gaza isn't part of the route, the canal might not happen at all. That reality has triggered sharp debate among international observers. Some see the project as a logistics revolution. Others view it as a cover for territorial expansion, a long-term strategy to assert dominance over a deeply contested region. Either way, the implications are clear. This isn't just an infrastructure project competing with the Suez Canal. It's a geopolitical chess move that could reshape the entire Middle East balance of power. And the next move could redraw the map. If the Ben Gurion Canal is completed, it won't just threaten the Suez, it could upend the entire structure of global trade. Egypt currently earns over $9 billion a year from the Suez Canal, nearly all of it tied to international shipping tolls. If even a fraction of that traffic shifts to Israel, Egypt's economy takes a direct hit. That means less foreign currency, fewer jobs, and increased pressure on a government already struggling with high inflation and widespread economic anxiety. But this isn't just about toll revenue. Control of a major shipping artery comes with strategic influence. Right now, the United States and its allies rely heavily on Egypt for access through the Suez, both for trade and for moving military assets between Europe and Asia. If Israel gains its own canal, that leverage shifts. The US could bypass Egyptian permissions entirely, moving aircraft carriers and naval assets through Israeli-controlled waters. Arab states lose bargaining power in Red Sea negotiations. The entire regional balance of power begins to tilt. And then there's China. Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, a multi-trillion-dollar plan to dominate global infrastructure, treats the Suez as irreplaceable. An Israeli alternative could force China to reroute $200 billion in annual trade flows and challenge China's logistical dominance in the region. Some analysts believe the Ben Gurion Canal could become a strategic choke point of its own, one that aligns more with Western interests than Chinese ones. That adds a layer of tension to an already fragile system. Meanwhile, global shipping giants, from Maersk to MSC, are watching closely. A second canal would break Egypt's monopoly pricing, potentially cutting shipping costs by 15 to 20% while providing critical backup capacity. But it would also introduce new risks, especially if political tensions flare around the route. In essence, this project has the potential to trigger a trade realignment, not unlike what happened after the Panama Canal expansion, but on a far more volatile playing field. What began as a response to one ship getting stuck could end with entire nations repositioning themselves for the future of global logistics. The Ben Gurion Canal isn't a new idea, but the urgency behind it is. In 2021, the world saw how fragile global trade really is. A single ship blocked the Suez Canal, and $60 billion worth of cargo sat idle for nearly a week, while global supply chains stretched to breaking point. Since then, the shipping industry hasn't just recovered, it's exploded. Ships are getting larger, volumes are rising, and geopolitical tensions in the Red Sea are pushing nations to rethink their logistics strategies. For Israel, this moment presents a rare convergence: advanced engineering capability, eager international investors, and an Egypt distracted by domestic economic crisis. The canal is being quietly pitched to international financiers, especially in the US, UK, and Gulf states, as a long-term hedge against future supply chain chaos. Construction estimates suggest it would take around 5 years to complete, with full operation by the early 2030s. And while Israel hasn't formally broken ground, the signs of early-stage movement are hard to ignore. Satellite imagery from 2024 shows unmistakable infrastructure activity near the proposed canal zone. Access roads where none existed before, cleared staging areas the size of football fields, and industrial-grade power lines. Israeli officials have also been meeting with engineering firms from Europe and Asia, some of which specialize in megaproject excavation. Industry insiders suggest that if political clearance is granted and financing is secured, groundbreaking could begin within 12 to 18 months. Meanwhile, Egypt isn't standing still. Recognizing the existential threat, it has launched an emergency expansion of the Suez Canal, widening lanes, upgrading ports, and cutting transit times to maintain its stranglehold on maritime traffic. What began as a slow-moving idea on the back shelf of Israeli infrastructure planning is now becoming a geopolitical countdown clock. And when that clock hits zero, the global trade map may never look the same. The Ben Gurion Canal is more than a mega project. It's a $55 billion declaration of independence from Egypt's control over global trade. If completed, it would permanently shift the center of maritime gravity in the Middle East. It would create new winners, new losers, and new dependencies across continents. And it would challenge the monopoly Egypt has held for over 150 years. But the stakes are steep. Building through Gaza's volatile territory, displacing potentially millions, risking military confrontation with regional powers. It's no longer a theoretical project gathering dust in government archives. It's a real plan, with active surveys, international meetings, and financing discussions already underway. The question now isn't whether it will reshape global trade, it's how soon the first ships will sail through Israeli waters instead of Egyptian ones. If you found this breakdown valuable, consider subscribing. We cover global infrastructure shifts, high-stakes megaprojects, and the geopolitical trends shaping tomorrow's world. And in the comments, tell us this: is the Ben Gurion Canal a visionary solution or a conflict waiting to happen?